Hello and welcome back to the channel. Bombshell news coming out of Disney. Bob Chapek is fired.
Bye! I miss you already!
You're fired! You're fired!
Yeah, this news breaking Sunday night, and this article from Deadline. Disney shocker, Bob Iger back as CEO as Bob Chapek is out. Overall, I want to cover what led to Bob Chapek's downfall. And in my opinion, it's that he was not an effective leader. An effective leader needs to have a vision. They need to be able to communicate that vision to others. They need to be able to rally the troops. They need to rally the employees to their cause. And then they need to execute their plan without wavering. And Bob Chapek did none of these things. So let's get into the details here. After less than a year in retirement, Bob Iger has returned as the CEO of Walt Disney Company. The company's board has sent out a notice stating that Bob I is back, and the recently re-upped Bob Chapek is out. Quote, I am deeply honored to be asked to again lead this remarkable team with a clear mission focused on creative excellence to inspire generations through unrivaled, bold storytelling. That was Bob Iger's statement. That was his mission statement right there. Right there, he communicated his vision, and he communicated it effectively. He's all about creative excellence and storytelling. He also managed to rally the troops by saying he's deeply honored to be asked to lead this remarkable team. So already, people like the fact that he's appealed to them, said, you are the reason for the success here, as most employees do feel and probably are the reason why companies are successful. I mean, companies aren't operated by one individual. All the employees contribute, and their contributions need to be recognized. And when CEOs do that while communicating an effective vision statement, and they get people to their side, and then they just simply need to execute their plan while keeping people on board. Bob Chapek was not able to do this. Iger will be CEO for a second time for the next 2 years, the company says. His mission will include identifying a successor, something Iger had difficulty doing while commanding the troops the last time, postponing multiple plans to step down during his 15 years in the top job. So keep in mind, yeah, Bob Iger was in this position for a long time. Well, he oversaw a lot of good calls. He made a lot of good decisions. He made a lot of acquisitions that I think were smart acquisitions. He kept to his plan. Now, there were some things about Bob Iger's tenure that weren't great. And one of those things was the fact that Disney and certain divisions turned to fan baiting and fan hating and regularly began to alienate the fans. And also, I would say the creative excellence was not there. The bold storytelling was not there. Everything felt very formulaic, contrived a lot of times. It was not good storytelling. So you can have this vision, and then you can use this vision to say, this is where we're going wrong. That's what you have to do. And again, this is something that Bob Chapek did not do well, that Bob Iger does extremely well. In the email to employees, Iger shared the news of his return, saying, quote, with an incredible sense of gratitude and humility, and I must admit a bit of amazement, Disney holds a special place in the hearts of people around the globe thanks to you and your dedication to this company, and its mission to bring joy to people through great storytelling is an inspiration to me every single day. So again, he has recommunicated his vision for great storytelling. He has rallied the troops by saying that, they're an inspiration to him every single day. And so already he, again, is getting people on board with him, saying, that Disney holds a special place in his heart. And I think most people that work at a company, they do tend to give that company their all. They do work there because they want to. And it's when they no longer want to that, that leadership has become ineffective. Now, sometimes leadership can be ineffective at making sure a company is profitable despite doing all of these things, despite having a vision and rallying the troops. And that's where executing the plan comes into that third step. And that is where a lot of people, even though they may have a good vision and they may be able to talk a good game. They can't execute. Now, remember that Chapek joined and he became CEO basically as COVID swept across the world in 2020. He managed to keep Disney from disaster despite the complete closure of theme parks, movie theater, and live sports, gradually winning the guarded confidence of investors. But then he started to have his missteps, and one of them was just not having that strong vision from the beginning and not being able to communicate this vision. This is why I think investors were a little bit guarded and concerned. I think Chapek can execute a plan. I just don't think he had a strong vision, and as a result, I don't think he had a strong plan from the beginning. I think he was very reactionary. He was just trying to keep the ship afloat, dealing with fire after fire after fire. He never took the time to establish his vision, communicate his vision strongly, and rally the troops. And then, as I said, his missteps came into play, like, for example, the Florida legislation. Chapek presided over the explosive situation in Florida involving the company's efforts around this legislation. The company's opposition bill led to retribution by Governor Ron DeSantis, who mocked the company as woke Disney, prompting waves of negative attention from conservative media. So it's interesting because Chapek identified that this could be the potential outcome if they did this, and then he did this anyways. Let's go to this article here from CNN about Disney refusing to publicly condemn the bill but committing to inclusivity. And I want to show you some of his missteps here. Now, Disney CEO Bob Chapek spoke out about Florida's controversial bill, but doubled down on his refusal to publish a public statement against it. Chapek said he and Disney's leadership unequivocally stand with LGBTQ+ employees, but Chapek did not take a stand against the bill, saying corporate statements are counterproductive and undermine more effective ways to implement change. But he said corporate statements do very little to change outcomes or minds. Now, what Chapek is saying is 100% true and accurate, but it's not the way you go about communicating this. And what he did and what he said only made his employees feel like they weren't actually, like he didn't have their back. In fact, the troops felt like he abandoned them. So he alienated a lot of employees at that point in time. But then he turned around and said, even though we shouldn't do this, right? He talks about instead how corporate statements are often weaponized by one side or the other to further divide and inflame. Again, an accurate statement, but this is not the public statement that he needed to make. He needed to make a public statement showing support for his employees, talking about how they're great with their creative storytelling and their passion for Disney and all things Disney, and that he, completely supports them, right? And you could take the Iger tack on this. And the Iger tack is this, where Iger comes out against something and then does nothing. He does not actually take a real stand against it. For example, when Georgia signed a heartbeat law in 2019, Iger said the studio will find it very difficult to film this in the state if the law took effect. Now, that was in 2019. If you look at every episode of She-Hulk, you will see at the very end, in the end credits, that it is filmed in Georgia. You will see the Georgia logo, the peach logo on there, and you will see that regardless of what Iger said at the time, Disney said one thing and then did another. They said what needed to be said to sort of, appease the employees, to let the employees know, hey, this is going to be okay. We got your back. And then quietly do nothing about it, because nothing really needs to be done by Disney about this. He just went on about his business. And this is an approach that Chapek could have used, but he chose not to. And instead, what he did in the Florida legislation was manage to actually alienate both his employees and then the state of Florida by doing and saying things that, were really, I think, too far on the other side, then prompting the state of Florida to remove a bunch of sweetheart deals that Disney had as a result. And so, Chapek managed to piss off both sides in that case. Another misstep, which many in the industry believe would never have happened under Iger, was publicly clashing with Scarlett Johansson over the release of Black Widow. The Marvel movie had gone out through the Premier Access window, meaning it was available for an extra charge on Disney Plus at the same time it hit theaters. The actress sued over breach of contract, saying the method of release had cost her tens of millions in back-end payments. You see, a lot of these top stars have compensation written into their contracts based off of box office receipts. And because Disney did not think ahead that what impact they're using their Premier Access might have on box office, and it would obviously have an impact, they didn't try to make up for that in contracts. They just thought that they were just going to slip this through and that the stars weren't going to know, and that they weren't going to notice. A-list stars weren't going to notice this when they have tens of millions of dollars on the line. They're definitely going to notice. Now, this movie was, albeit a dud anyways, and so in the end, what was achieved by all of this? Well, the only thing that Chapek managed to achieve was to alienate his A-list star and to give other A-list stars a little bit pause when it comes to working with Disney, right? And it's a way he went about it. This is how he went about it. Disney hit back hard, calling Johansson's suit, quote, especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the pandemic. Yeah, he played the "you want to kill grandma" card. And I honestly don't blame Scarlett Johansson's response for being "fuck you," because these theaters were open. They were open for business. They had protocols in place that allowed them to open. So her wanting compensation to be adjusted because they're funneling money from box office tickets into their Disney Plus Premier Access is legitimate. It has nothing to do with the pandemic. It has everything to do with just a contractual agreement. This all should have been handled in quiet. This should have been handled beforehand, before it became an issue. So this was a huge mistake on Chapek's part. Now, I think Chapek did actually get kind of to a vision, but it was too little too late. Now, we have this article from last week that I covered last week about Disney CEO Bob Chapek confirming the company undertaking a massive cost-cutting measure in the wake of poor Q4 financial performance. And you might recall something that he said in here, and that was, quote, that the measures set to be undertaken by this task force include a rigorous review of the company's content and marketing spending, working with our content leaders and their teams. Now, the marketing spending being out of control and spending being out of control in general is not a new thing at Disney. This should have been a focus 2 years ago. So again, this is not so much about not having the strong vision, but not executing the plan. I mean, the problem is, like, the latest Marvel movies are costing about $250 million a pop. And after marketing and G&A, the budget swells to about $750 million just to break even. Thor 4 only made $750 million worldwide, and Multiverse of Madness only made $950 million, which means that Thor 4 broke even. It made no profit at all. And it means that Multiverse of Madness made maybe $200 or $300 million at best. And I said it last week in my video that those profit margins are unsustainable. And they are, but this is something that should have been handled and tackled 2 years ago. Now, in this, I think it's interesting then that he goes on to say that they want to ensure their investments are both efficient and come with tangible benefits for both audiences and the company. And he placed the audience first, which rightly so. That's exactly what you do. And you tie that back into a quote like this then, like placing the audience first, right? So that, you can continue to bring joy to people through great storytelling and, how inspirational that is and stuff like that, right? So you have that strong mission statement and you tie things back into that and say, this is why we need to do this. You let people know you need to cut costs, because without doing that, then you're not going to be able to bring this great storytelling to the public. Unfortunately, again, this was just too little too late from Bob Chapek. This, like I said, should have been done 2 years ago. He did not have a strong vision, did not manage to rally the troops, the employees to his side, did not have a plan that he then executed without wavering. In fact, that all he seemed to do was waver throughout this. He would say one thing, and then instead of saying one thing and doing another like Bob Iger did, but doing that quietly, he said one thing and then he said another, and then he did maybe a third thing. So I just don't think Chapek at the end of the day was very effective at all. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. In the meantime, you want to continue to support the channel, then please click the like, share, and subscribe buttons. We're currently sitting at 813 subscribers, and with the goal of getting to 1,000, so the next milestone is 900 subscribers. If you're enjoying the content, then please do subscribe, as it does help. That's all I have for now, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.